Hey, 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 everyone. It's your girl, Henni B. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. Listen, I wanted to share some of Henni's top 12 of 2022. Listen, as the president and founder of Career Image Solutions, as well as Kingdom HR, not to mention, I am a wife and a mother of five, and I just do a whole lot of other things. I have learned that there are just lessons that are always teaching me if I just sit still and pay attention. So I'm going to share the top 12 for 2022 for me. Okay. So, first things first, I want to make sure that you all hear me loud and clear with this one, that obedience is necessary. Obedience is necessary. There are some things that will not make sense to you, but you have to recognize that obedience is necessary. There are some things that I had to do in 2022 that literally made absolutely no sense. Made no sense. There were some things that made no sense financially. There were some things that made no sense spiritually. There were some things that made no sense just with the time and the capacity that I had. There were some things that I wanted to do, but I knew that I was not supposed to do it. So I still had to obey and not do the thing, right? I had to let go of some clients. I had to say no to what seemed like amazing opportunities. And that obedience really panned out to work together for my good. So that is definitely my number one lesson, which is obedience is necessary. All right. So my second lesson from 2022, be careful who you look up to. Oh my gosh, going into 2022 and ending 2022, I had a really rude awakening. There were two individuals that I really looked up to, and maybe they didn't know that I looked up to them, but I did. And um, they did some really hurtful things to me. One, I found out actually was speaking negatively about me to other people. And then the other one literally took an idea that I had and just made it her own and never said anything. And it was just really weird, right? So the second person, we didn't really have a relationship, but I looked up to her. And then the first person, I definitely did look up to her. And unfortunately, I saw the person to be more than what I guess they saw me as. But either way, it was just some integral things that were done that really hurt my feelings. And just, it bogged me down for some time. And I know you might be saying, Hannah, well, you just need to women up. You know, you should know this by now. You've been in business. But for real, y'all, I really love people. Like those that know me closely know that if I say that I don't like somebody, number one, it's very rare that I would say that. But if I say that, you know, it has to be something completely egregious that the person has done. And I'm a grace girl. So you could do something wrong and I still feel like there's another chance for you to get it right. I have people in my life that have changed dramatically. And so I just feel like people can change if they really want to. So with those two people that I looked up to, it really put a damper on me. And for a slight moment, it did make me not want to open myself up to others that were who I deemed as mentors for those that I looked up to, but it only lasted for a minute. I refuse to change who I am because of the integrity of somebody else. So that's my lesson number two. Be careful who you look up to. The third lesson is don't forget to repent. So I am a believer. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. And I do believe in one of our core principles of my faith is to not just forgive, but also to repent. So I want to make sure that I'm sharing with you some encouragement and one of my lessons, because I would ask for forgiveness, but what I recognize is that I was chasing this, I was doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I recognized that I kept asking for forgiveness for the same thing because I never really repented. I didn't repent to repent from something. Sometimes maybe you end up doing it again, you know, by mistake or whatever. But when you're repenting, you're literally saying, I have the intention to not do this ever again, right? You ever met someone who did something to you and they apologized? They said, oh, I'm sorry for doing that, or I'm sorry if it made you feel that way. And you know in your heart of our hearts that they're going to do it again. Well, I decided to take it a step further and to really repent. And when I repented for something, I literally wrote it down and started putting things in place to ensure that I could move towards not doing that thing again. I didn't want to ask for forgiveness for that thing again. I truly wanted to repent. All right. So lesson number 4. It is crucial for you to identify your triggers. Literally, there was one time in 2022, again, kind of, it ties back into the previous lesson. But I don't know about you, but I get sick and tired of myself sometimes, where I am just going around the same mountain. And I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't I here last month? Wasn't I here last year? So there were some things that were happening to me that I recognized that were very familiar. They were not unfamiliar at all. They were very familiar. So what I did was I actually wrote down quite a few of those triggers, things that were getting me emotionally charged up, or those things that I knew would take me off course for whatever the plan is that I had for that particular season, or whatever I felt like I was called to in that particular season. And I wrote those things down. And one time when I those things down, there were 14 things listed that were triggers for me. They were things from my family. They were things from court-related issues, for my, issues with co-parenting. There were things in there relating to my health. There were things relating into there regarding my staff. There were things related there that was pertaining to me. I mean, it was just everything that was just triggering me. I wrote it down, and I actually worked with my therapist with it. And it was just such a freeing thing. Now, again, your triggers, when you write down your triggers, it's not that it's the other person's fault. It's for you to identify what your alert signs are. Like when you're driving and you see the alert, like, oh, low tire pressure or check engine light. Writing down your triggers allows you, again, to say, hey, I might need a checkup here. I might need to pay attention to that thing here, right? And it also allowed me to establish boundaries around some of those things that were getting under my skin, so to speak. Okay. So lesson number 5, don't be afraid to let go. Oh my gosh. I don't know. All of these lessons are not necessarily in order, but man, I just feel like the not letting go, like not being afraid to let go, is a really big one. 2022 is thinking about it now. Oh man, you just cannot be afraid to let go. There were certain relationships that I had to let go. And let me just be clear about that. There were certain relationships that I didn't get rid of the person completely. However, the nature of our relationship changed and shifted. And I was so afraid to let that person go, because one of my love and my core values as a person is integrity and loyalty, right? But sometimes loyalty costs you more than you anticipated. You got to count the cost. So do not be afraid of letting go. Don't be afraid to let go of clients. Don't be afraid to let go of people. And again, sometimes it just means that you're shifting, right? There's space in your life. Don't be afraid to let go of beliefs that you hold on to. You keep saying, oh, I'm just like this, or this is what I do. This is who I am. I'm being authentically me. Please don't be afraid to let go. There is probably a newer version of you that you don't even know yet, but you won't be able to even recognize who that person is if you won't let go. All right, lesson number 6. Work Sabbath is absolutely necessary. So in 2021, I started taking the Sabbath a little bit more seriously, not too seriously though. I actually did a video on this, so check it out, about the work Sabbath. But I started implementing this a whole lot more. So obviously, for those of you who are not familiar with the Sabbath is, if you just go and read about it in the Bible, there's different faiths that believe in some form of Sabbath, which means to rest. And people rest from different things. But what I found to be so helpful were the moments where I did obey and I listened, is when I actually practiced not doing any work, right? Not doing any work. And it seemed so counterproductive. when I first started, because I'm like, time is everything, time is money, all of these thoughts, all of these things that I grew up hearing. And to take a whole day, to take hours of a week and to not do any work just felt so wrong. Like, do you know what I could be getting done? But I'm telling you, the times that I actually just got still and rested, and man, I'm telling you, it propelled me even further as a result of this. I will just share with you that in 2022, I actually had the most rest days that I've ever had in my life. And I made even more money. Go figure, right? I made even more money not doing as much work. It's just to say it out loud. And again, I didn't practice it the entire year because I was being totally stubborn some days. And I thought that what I had to do was more important than resting. I'm telling you, it was a definite game changer. So practice the work Sabbath, even if we don't share the same belief, just practice some rest. Take some rest away from what you've been doing. Take some time to reassess what's working, what's not working. Am I in tune with what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And you'll be surprised the creativity that starts to pour into you because you've actually taken some time for your Sabbath or your rest. Lesson number 7, don't forget what matters. Listen, I made this comment to one of my accountability partners the other day that before I became a wife and before I became a mother, I was always a businesswoman. I was that girl growing up. I never thought about, oh, how many children am I going to have? Well, I think I did. One of my good friends told me that I did say that I was going to have a bunch of sons when I was like a teenager. I don't remember that, but that's what he said. And so it was very challenging for me when I became a mother. I became a mother before I became a wife. And it was very challenging because I had to reprioritize all of my time that I got to brainstorm, create, and, all of these things. And I had to kind of divide that time with people. What I recognize is that it wasn't really about dividing my time, but it was about reprioritizing, because there's no way that I could imagine my life without my husband. There's no way that I could imagine my life without my children. There's no way that I could imagine my life without my parents, especially after losing some already. There's no way that I can imagine my life without my friends and, my family members. There's no way that I can imagine life without that. So if I can imagine life without that, with those people, with those things that matter, it was super important that in 2022 that I made time to not forget those things. And what that meant for me is that I had to schedule more time in. I started implementing date nights with my sons, right? I started becoming a little bit more intentional towards the end of the year with just having dates with friends and, intentional time with parents. So again, I want to just encourage you. Hopefully you can glean in from my lesson in 2022. Do not forget what really matters. Take stock of your time and ask yourself, have I been paying attention to what really matters? Your health, right? I started scheduling all of my doctor's appointments, so on and so forth, right? Lesson number 8, be open to new connections. So I shared before that one of my core languages that means so much to me is loyalty. So I was definitely on the bandwagon of the no new friends. I have enough friends. I like who my friends are. But seriously, one of the things that really was a game changer for me is to be open to new connections, to be open to new mentors, new friendships or associations, just being open. And that really made a world of a difference. There were people who had exactly what I needed and vice versa. And I know that I wouldn't have been able to materialize that if I wasn't open to new connection. Lesson number 9, you want to hire for your future. So not everybody that's watching is going to be hiring. So I totally get that, right? However, I want you to broaden the term hire, right? So you want to think about your future self. the person who you are called to be. You are still that person now, but more than likely there are things that you have to materialize, or there you have to become probably some, you have to start acquiring some different skill sets now in order for you to really manifest who your future self is, right? So you want, when I say hire for your future, for me, that really meant I needed to make sure that I was making decisions that were aligned to my future self, and not just my right now self, right? So for me, literally, I had to hire for my future, which was scary, right? I had to start thinking about that because I had a lot of lessons with that. Sometimes you might hire for your right now because your urgency seemed like it's such an emergency that it forces you to make right now decisions that you may end up regretting later. And I definitely did that. And obviously, it all becomes lessons learned. But if you could be more intentional about looking at who you are to be, not just who you are now, you will find that your decisions will become more aligned for your future and not just your now. Okay. Lesson number 10. You want to listen to your pain. Oh my gosh. Again, 2022 was filled with lots of great things and lots of things that I could have just went somewhere else. Okay. But at the end of 2021, I did hear the Lord say that I needed to be steadfast. And that was exactly what I heard. To be steadfast means that, you got to remain regardless of what happens. So in that, there were some areas that really did bring me some pain. And one of my mentors actually met with me and a few others in our worship team a few months ago, which is why my voice is the way it is right now. I was singing for New Year's Day as well as New Year's Eve. And that's all I got to say. So hopefully you all can still understand what I'm saying, right? Okay. But my mentor shared with us, she said, pain is an indicator. Pain is an indicator. And when you have pain, it's an indicator for you to pay attention right there. So again, while there were still some success areas, but again, other areas were really causing pain, and it forced me to pay attention. Now, the old me, to be quite honest, when pain arose, I would ignore it. I would just pull the covers over my head or try to just put it to the side and just hope that it would go away. But the reality is, if there's pain somewhere, it's an indicator that you need to pay attention. So again, when my mentor said that to me, it changed how I looked at pain. And I realized that it was just an indicator. It was just a signal, a warning signal for me to pay attention. Lesson number 11, refocus on your right now often. Oh my gosh, you must take stock of what is happening. Oh my goodness, I did not do this enough, so which is why this is a lesson. Because I am also like a big visionary. I have lots of ideas all the time, like literally. I can wake up with at least 5 new thoughts, 5 new ideas. If you give me a business idea, we will have a whole plan. I can overwhelm many people because I have a lot. I have a lot to give, and I'm a teacher at heart, so I'm always trying to tell you something that you never asked me for, right? But refocusing on your right now was super critical when I finally started doing this in 2022. You want to ask yourself, what must you do in this season? Especially if you're multi-talented or multi-purpose and you are wearing many hats. This is super important because just because something is good doesn't mean that it's for your right now. Just because something is good doesn't mean that it's God, right? So you really gotta schedule some time for you to sit still and to reassess what you were doing. If what you were doing, if it really requires your attention right now. Because sometimes maybe the thing that you want that you're doing, sometimes maybe that's for Q2, maybe that's for next year, right? So again, if you start practicing your work Sabbath, or practicing your rest periods, hopefully you can utilize that time to begin asking yourself some of these really important questions. I can't tell you how many people that I've coached. I do a lot of career coaching for mid-career working professionals. I can't tell you how many people come to me and they say, oh, I'm looking for a new job. But I ask them, well, what do you want to do? They say they don't know. They've never taken the time to even to assess what they've done over the last 10 years, 5 years, 3 years in their career. And now when it's time to transition or to pivot, they're starting from ground zero simply because they've never taken stock at who they were becoming and if what they were doing was for that particular season. One of the things that one of the sayings that I began saying actually in 2021 was, that package does not belong to me. You know, when somebody delivers a package for you, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, where they've delivered a package to you, but it has somebody else's name on it, but it's still on your front porch. But you have to decide in that moment, am I going to open up this package, which I know does not belong to me? It does not have my name on this package. What am I going to do with this package? Yes, it's on my property, on my porch. But am I going to open it? Because if I open it, now I'm responsible for what is contained in the package. Y'all better pick up what I put down. Or am I going to return to sender? Hello, somebody. Sometimes it belongs to your neighbor. So maybe you simply need to walk across the street and say, hey, this package belongs to you. Or sometimes you say, you know what? I'm not even trying to be involved in that. I'm going to return this back to sender. Take it back to the post office or put a note so that the mail person can see, hey, you delivered this to the wrong house. Because our time, we cannot spend our time opening boxes that don't belong to us. So refocusing on your right now often was definitely a big lesson for me. So lesson number 12, last but not least, is that you must make God your CEO. And again, I tend to come from the business lens a whole lot, but even if you're not in business, you still want to make him the CEO of your life. How many of you, if working for someone, you allow your supervisor can tell you, hey, I need this by tomorrow, 2 p.m., and you will do it. You'll make sure that you get it done, right? Even if you have to move some things around, you'll make sure that you get it done. Many times what I found even in my own life is that when I felt like I heard the Lord tell me something, I would say, oh, well, let me do this first. Let me do this first. By making God the CEO of your life, of your business, of your home, of your career, of whatever, of your finances, what that means is that you yield to God first. It means that you acknowledge him first. It means that you surrender your plans to him. It means that you relinquish what you want to do and you say, God, what do you want to do? And that was something that I did, but I don't know if I did it as well as I probably could have. So again, that is my last lesson of 2022. So let me just do a recap. Obedience is necessary. Be careful who you look up to. Don't forget to repent. It's crucial to identify your triggers. Don't be afraid to let go. Work Sabbath is necessary. Don't forget what matters. Be open to new connections. Hire for your future. Listen to the pain. Refocus on your right now often and make God your CEO. Listen, I hope nothing but the best for you in 2023. Thank you so much for watching and listening to what my top 12 lessons were in 2022. I hope to connect with you even more in 2023. And until next time, don't forget to command your day.